Hi, I'm Meris, and in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about different types of advanced directives. I'm going to be following along using our Fundamentals of Nursing flashcards. These are available on our website, leveluprn.com, if you want to grab a set for yourself. Or if you are more of a fan of digital products, I would invite you to check out Flashables, the digital version of all of our flashcards available on demand and at your fingertips wherever you go. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first up, I want to talk to you about something called the Patient Self-Determination Act, which is a legal document that gives patients the right to make choices about their own healthcare, including in advance, or what we refer to as advance directives. The PSDA goes directly towards supporting your patient's right to autonomy, their right to make their own decisions about what happens to their body, including their healthcare. So now I want to tell you about a couple of different types of advanced directives so that you are familiar with what they are, what they mean, and which one is the right one for your patient if they should come to you and have questions about their options for advanced directives. So the first one that I want to talk to you about is what's called a living will. And a living will, as the name suggests, it is a document that is drafted while the person is living, and it states also what they want to happen with their body while they are still alive. So let me give you an example of this. This is going to be a document that allows me to indicate which medical procedures I consent to or that I do not wish to have in the event that I were unable to provide my informed consent at the time. So I myself have a living will. I actually got a living will set up the day I turned 18, if that tells you anything about what kind of a person I am. But my living will spells out specifically the things I do and do not wish to happen, such as intubation, feeding tubes, how long I'd like to stay on life support, all of these different interventions that are important to me. I get to say right here and now, while I am of sound mind and body, these are the things that I do want to happen. These are the things that I do not wish to happen. And this can be a document that your patient does, whether they are healthy or facing some kind of terminal illness. And this is something that can be on file with the hospital. And the patient should also have a copy themselves and a copy on file with their lawyer's office. Now, moving right along, I want to talk to you about do not resuscitate or DNR orders. So this is going to be a document that, depending on the laws of the state in which this patient lives, needs to be signed by a physician or a provider that states that this patient does not wish to have life-sustaining measures, resuscitative measures performed should they need them. So an example here would be, this means we are not going to be doing CPR or cardiopulmonary resuscitation. That does mean that if the patient should experience some sort of life-threatening arrhythmia that would require CPR, that this patient should be informed ahead of time that this will lead to their death without intervention. But again, we support our patients' right to make choices about their own health care, even if it is something that means that they don't want to receive a specific type of health care. The other thing that's important to notice about a DNR order, and this is more about in your clinical practice, is that when you are being admitted to the hospital, most of the time they will ask you, if your heart were to stop beating, would you want us to take every measure to get it started again or not? This can be a decision that is made for a specific hospital stay or admission, and a DNR order might need to be revoked temporarily for specific types of surgeries to take place, but again, just defer to your facility policies and your state practices. Now, lastly, I want to talk to you about durable power of attorney, or DPOA. And durable power of attorney, this is a document that defines who can make healthcare decisions for me in the event that I cannot make them for myself. This person does not need to be related to the patient. A durable power of attorney, it could be your lawyer, could be the person that you designate to make healthcare decisions for you. It could be a close friend, a partner, a child, whomever you want. However, the important thing to know here is that this document is the way to identify someone other than the next of kin as being a person who is allowed to make healthcare decisions for this patient. Durable healthcare power of attorney can be changed, it can be revoked, but the important thing here is just to understand that yes, in the instance that your patient cannot provide their consent, this advance directive has identified somebody to provide their healthcare decisions for them. All right, I'm so glad you stayed until the end because I'm going to test your knowledge of key facts provided in this video with our quiz questions. Which type of advance directive prevents healthcare professionals from performing CPR? Do not resuscitate or DNR. A patient states to the nurse that if he were to be in a coma, he wouldn't want a feeding tube to be placed. Which type of advance directive would cover this type of self-determination? A living will. All right, that is it for this video. I do hope you learned something. If you did, would you leave us a comment and let us know what? We really like seeing that. And hey, if you have a great way of remembering something that I didn't mention in this video, leave that as a comment too. We like to see it, but it's beneficial to other learners as well. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much and happy studying. I did just want to show you, I'm not kidding. When you have a living will done or any kind of an advance directive, it's important to keep this on file. And so this is mine, and I have it on file here in my house. I also have it on file at the hospital. My doctor's office has a copy, and of course the lawyer who drafted this for me has a copy as well. But I just want to say to you, you are never too healthy or too young to start planning for what would happen if you were to need additional medical intervention. It is a good time to think about these things when you are doing well so that you are in that nice clear headspace and have the frame of mind to put some thought into this. But I can tell you that one of the things that I have learned during my time as an ER and trauma nurse is that you need to have a plan for what will happen at the end of your life, even if you think that's a long ways away. So I just want to empower you that you can totally take control of your own healthcare and your end of life decisions right here and now.
We invite you to subscribe to our channel and share a link with your classmates and friends in nursing school. And if you found value in this video, be sure to hit that like button and let us know what you found to be particularly helpful.